Ukraine was the focus of talks between America and China today, and President Zelenskyy was told the nation's candidacy to join the EU could be accelerated. But in Moscow, a rare public appearance at a war rally from President Putin saw a blunt message. The Kremlin's aims will be achieved. On the ground, the airstrikes and artillery continued without major Russian advances. Most of Ukraine's major cities were under bombardment, with Severodonetsk taking particularly heavy shelling. An aircraft repair facility was hit by Russian missiles on the outskirts of this city, Lviv. And in Mariupol, President Zelenskyy said 130 people have been saved from the ruins of the bombed theatre, but he says hundreds remain missing. A warning, my report contains some distressing images. The Putin much of Russia loves appeared on stage today at Moscow's National Stadium, just as his latest missiles appeared at a residential block in Kyiv. Russian performers gave an extraordinary show of national celebration. As Ukrainians learned, one of their most famous performers, Oksana Shvets, was among the latest dead in Russian attacks. In Moscow, the Z painted on those Russian tanks in Ukraine became the decoration of choice to mark 8 years since the war began with the annexation of Crimea. And in Kyiv, they took 19 people to hospital and put out the fires. In Russia, flipping the channel always brought you the same message.
И лучшим подтверждением тому является то, как воюют, как действуют наши ребята в ходе этой военной операции. Плечо к плечу. Помогают, поддерживают друг друга. А если надо, то как родного брата прикрывают своим телом от пули на поле боя. Такого единения у нас давно не было.
Here in Lviv, the city woke to a shock. Days after the attack on a military base 40 miles away, the bombing had come closer. It was about 6:30 this morning that the air raid sirens went off. There appears to have been one hit. It's near the airport. The local authority soon revealed an aircraft repair facility had been hit by cruise missiles. Ukraine's fighter jets have not been seen flying in and out of Lviv, but so close to the Polish border, the Russians will suspect this whole area is increasingly important for bringing weapons and expertise in. The mayor of Lviv is trying to reassure a nervous population. In Russia, Foreign Minister Lavrov has said that military transports will now be targeted. Do you think that foreign military aid and foreign fighters who are coming to this country to volunteer for Ukraine could be making Lviv and this area a target?
Це побажання України дійсно передати нам частину авіації з багатьох країн, які мають відповідні літаки, які можуть експлуатувати наші пілоти. Але це рішення є не прийнято. Тому вмирають люди кожного дня.
Hi there, from the Russian-speaking Severodonetsk.
Sergei Okishev is a journalist in Severodonetsk, under fire today from Russian-held territory in the east.
Russian multiply rocket launcher Grad strikes hospitals, schools, kindergarten and apartments of civilians. Russians' rockets destroy the infrastructure of Severodonetsk. Half of city without electrics, water and heat. Please stop the Russians.
On the other side, in Russian-held Donetsk, what they said were victims of Ukrainian shelling in a residential area. At least 4 civilians dead. According to President Zelenskyy at the bombed theatre in Mariupol, there are still hundreds of people under the debris. But there are still only images of the wreckage. 130 people are reported to have made it out alive. But Mariupol is now too dangerous to risk moving the dead from many of the places where they have been killed. Neighbours are burying each other where they fall. wondering, no doubt, who will bury them. Well, in the centre of Lviv today, a grim reminder of the toll this war is taking on the most vulnerable was on display. 109 empty prams lined up to highlight the number of children believed to have been killed so far in the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The campaign, labelled The Price of War, was organised by local activists and authorities and signified children who are coming from dangerous areas that were not able to reach Lviv or safety. Well, President Zelenskyy has said he expects progress to be made on Ukraine's application to join the EU within the next few months after speaking to the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. Earlier, I spoke to Ivana Klimpoush-Tsintsadze, former Deputy Prime Minister of Ukraine and currently chairing the Parliamentary Committee on Integration of Ukraine to the EU. And I asked her if Ukraine moving closer to EU membership would make giving up the hope of NATO membership more palatable.
For me, giving up the idea of becoming NATO a member for Ukraine would sound disastrous. So therefore, I think that also across the society, the understanding today is that we need to be part of the also transatlantic union, NATO, in order to be not only prosperous as in the EU, but also secure.
But hasn't President Zelenskyy effectively accepted now that giving up that ambition for NATO will have to be part of any peace?
I do not think so. I think that we have to understand, first and foremost, that in order to change our constitution, which foresees the strategic goal of EU and NATO membership, you need constitutional majority of the Ukrainian parliamentarians. And I hope that there are not enough suicidal parliamentarians in the Ukrainian parliament to actually change these goals. That's one thing. And another thing, my understanding is that probably President Zelenskyy is trying to look for some construction, maybe in the meantime, before we join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
It is clear that the Russian army is not making big advances on the ground, but it does have the ability, as it has in Syria for years, to keep shelling, to keep sending missiles, to keep bombing Ukraine. Does this now look to you like a long war?
Unfortunately, it does look to me as a long war, but its length and its result depends not exclusively on Ukrainian people. I think that the nations and leadership of the free world has to actually finally look into the situation very, very soberly. You have to understand that, unfortunately, Putin has started the third world war on our territory, because if we will not succeed, he will move further.
Do you think it's possible that President Zelenskyy could end up negotiating some sort of deal that the Ukrainian people do not accept?
I hope that he feels well enough the Ukrainian nation and Ukrainian people and our desire to how do we see our future. He has his responsibilities, but he is a representative of the Ukrainian people. So he better feels and understands very well, because otherwise it could be possible that Ukrainian people might not agree to something that he could negotiate.
We know that Russia can carry on sending its missiles for years. Are you sure the Ukrainian people can withstand that pain for the same time?
We have no choice. We have to understand. Russia wants to ensure that Ukrainian nation, Ukrainian state does not exist on the map of the world. So if we agree to something that will fulfill even all the demands of Russian Federation, they will take that break. And after that, in a couple of years, will ensure that we are all turned into, I don't know, some type of slaves, or we sent to some type of concentration camps or whatever. Russia is a terrorist state that is following the path of Stalin's USSR. And that has to be understood. So we Ukrainians We do not have the future in any coexistence with this state as it is at this particular moment.
Ivana Klimpush, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Well, the British media regulator Ofcom has revoked the broadcast licence for the Russian-backed news channel RT, saying they did not consider it fit and proper to hold a UK broadcast licence. Earlier today, I spoke to the Armed Forces Minister, James Heappey, and I began by asking him if the UK is sending the Ukrainian Armed Forces weapons which would enable them to shoot down Russian planes and missiles.
Definitely that will help shoot planes out of the sky, yes.
But not missiles.
I mean, it would be a blooming good shot.
There was an attack near to Lviv by the airport today. I mean, do you think there is a danger that signalling that you are sending all this military aid is bringing the war to the west of Ukraine? Because it's obviously coming in through Poland.
I think we flatter ourselves if we think that the Russians get their intelligence from watching Western media. They'll know full well what we're up to. As bad as it will feel for people who are in Lviv today, it's not at all unexpected and isn't a surprise that Russia would want to try to interrupt Ukrainian supply lines. That is very much an integral part of war. What I think we need to do is to work with Romania and Slovakia to create further points of entry into Ukraine for this aid, so the Russian job is harder.
There are a group of people, and I spoke to one, Anders Fogh Rasmussen, the former NATO Secretary General, last night, saying that the West has made a mistake. By taking military action off the table, you have made it clear to Putin that you will go so far, but only so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a point of debate. Clearly, the current Secretary General thinks otherwise. So too do most of those who are right now in the hot seat and have to make decisions on behalf of their countries in the West. I happen to agree very much with what the Prime Minister of the UK, President of the United States, the current Secretary General of NATO are saying, which is that denying Putin that opportunity to claim that NATO is the aggressor, NATO is the one that is taking the fight to the Russians, was quite an important part of denying him the sort of narrative of legitimacy to the Russian people.
You don't worry that it makes NATO look weak?
NATO is absolutely working as an alliance in a way we've not seen for 30 years to contain this in Ukraine. And all of the threats that Putin is making, NATO is ready to respond to. It's just that NATO is a defensive alliance, and NATO's boundary is where NATO's boundary is.
The broadcasting regulator, which I know is independent, but whose boss is appointed by the government, has now taken away the licence of Russia Today, RT. That will have an implication for the BBC in Russia, won't it? I mean, it could be damaging to get free information to the people of that country.
It's right that the regulator has taken the decision to take Russia Today off the airwaves, rather than government. Whether or not it has consequence for the BBC, I don't know, but it feels to me as if Putin is already clamping down on the BBC and Russia pretty heavily anyway.
You're putting out these sort of defence intelligence updates on Twitter every day, saying that the Russian advance has been stalled, they're not getting anywhere. I mean, do you really know what their military objective is?
I can't tell you what it is and how we've got it, but I know very well that whatever the Russians thought their plan was, it is not working. There was huge hubris in it. Nobody is speaking truth to power in Moscow. Things are going really badly for them. And the worst for Russia is yet to come.
James Heappey, thank you very much.
Thank you.